Ugh, I'm depressed. I don't know how we have gotten here, you guys. The time has gone by so quickly, but it is time to bring our tender plants indoors for the winter. Hi, you guys. This is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in Growing Zone 8B in southeastern North Carolina. It has been an awesome year going through the gardening journey with you. I have made so many friends here, and I thank you for that. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so, and that just ensures that my content continues to show up in your feed. So while I garden in a fairly warm climate, it is time to still bring my sensitive plants indoors. These are things like my tropical hibiscus. I have a lot of tropical beauties like the Dipladenia behind me, things that don't really want or thrive in temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. My temperatures, while today is beautiful, are starting to dip tonight, and I don't believe we're going to recover from that and bounce back again. So if you're lucky enough to have a greenhouse, hopefully your greenhouse is ready for you. If you're not, maybe you have some space inside that you've been prepping to bring your plants in. I have a little bit of both. I have not procrastinated getting my greenhouse ready. It is just that life happens and it isn't ready in time for these temperature dips right now. So I'm going to do my best, bring my tender babies inside the house for now until the greenhouse is fully ready for me. So I have to dig these Dipladenia out from the waterfall. Here I have some plants that are tender that I need to separate and pot up some babies from and all that kind of stuff. And I'm taking you with me. Before we go ahead and get our hands dirty, I wanted to show you something that I was just walking by. Now I have a lot of bee activity here, so I want to be careful, but I have a whole slew of mini bananas, ornamental only, on my banana trees right now. So I'm going to just show you that and then we'll get to work. This right here is essentially the flower that comes on the banana trees. This is the Baju hardy banana. But oh my gosh, look at what's behind it. How adorable. Let's see if I can not get stung by a bee by disturbing them. Oh my gosh, how adorable. And that's not the only bunch I have. One of my main gardening objectives is to do the most I can with as little money as possible. So I am a firm believer in gardening on a budget. One of the things that gardening on a budget entails is propagating our own plants. So however I can make my own plants, it could be growing seeds even, it could be dividing up my own perennials, or it could be taking cuttings from something that I want to root. However I want to create more plants for free, that's awesome. And that's something I want to do and I want to share with you today. I have a couple of projects that I want to do on some plants before I bring things indoors. One of the things is my Kalanchoe plant, which is a succulent style plant, so it definitely cannot stay outside for the winter. My Kalanchoe has grown a little pup in here, and from what I understand, I should be able to take this pup off. So I'm going to attempt to do that, and assuming it has no roots, I actually want to let it harden off before I put it into new potting soil to grow the new plant. Now supposedly you can also take leaves directly off of the Kalanchoe and also just root them in the same way. Now I do have one leaf under here that is decently buried in the soil, so maybe I'll try that at the same time and let them both harden off at the same time. And then I will certainly let you know how that goes to let you know if you should do the same thing with yours or not. But the other thing I want to separate is actually a cold tolerant plant, is my decorative cabbage. So this decorative cabbage, I had a nice big head of it to use for my landscaping last year, and then over time the bottom leaves would fall off of the stem and just left me with a little head up at the top. So all I did was chopped that head off, left myself with a stem, and out of that stem I have now multiple heads of cabbage that I'm going to try to separate off of this main stem. Now, I could not find clear information online myself as to if I could just clip off a head like this and just root that, but I'm going to try that, and I will also let you know how that works, because I mean, it looks like that should happen, and since everything leafed out as soon as I cut the stem before, well, it's all a test. So we're going to do that too. So not only are we bringing sensitive plants in today, we're going to do a little bit of plant surgery to try to propagate some new things as well. So starting with the Kalanchoe first, I have clean cutting utensils that I am going to attempt to use without having to take this whole plant out of the soil to see if this little pup has any roots or anything like that. So I'm going to remove a little bit of the soil just from the side of the pup to see if I can see anything. And if I cannot, I am going to just try to sever it from the parent plant and see what happens. I actually saw somebody else use a spoon in a YouTube video, so I thought I would give that a try. I have no roots on the cutting of my pup here, so I am going to let this harden off. So basically just air dry until I get a little callus formed here, and then I'm going to try to plant it into some soil. While I'm at it, I think I will take the buried leaf also, again, just so I have two things hardening off at the same time. So now I have a leaf cutting and my little pup. So both of these are going to be in new pots, and I'm going to put them in my trusty garden tub, which is my favorite area to overwinter or propagate cuttings for things, since I have a nice bright window there that they can sit by. So I'm going to do that, and then meanwhile, this guy has to be moved inside the house. So our second propagation experiment of the day, before we start moving some other beauties inside the house, is to see what we can do about some surgery on our decorative cabbage. So it looks like what's happening here is the cabbage, the new cabbage heads, are just starting their growth like this. So what I'm thinking I would like to do is clip off some of these bottom leaves, give me a nice little stem here. I don't even know. I don't know how many leaves to clip off, so I'm going to tell you the results of my experiment so you know exactly what to do next time. Since I'm going to try to put this into soil and root it, one of the things I want to be sure I'm going to do is mist it with water so that it can take water in through its leaves since it doesn't have a root system. But what I'm going to do is put multiple of these cuttings into one little pot of soil and just kind of see what happens. This one here is actually quite large, but it certainly looks like it's its own head. So I feel like that being the case, maybe I could just root it that way. Hopefully I can, and hopefully I don't need to remove all the leaves in order to make that happen. Usually when I propagate stem cuttings, I do remove the leaves. I'm just not sure. This seems very different for me for some reason. But now I have two pretty big ones in this pot now. So I'm thinking 2 is enough, because if I want the root systems to grow, I want them to have room to do that. So I'm going to take some other cuttings and put them into a second pot and go from there. So the next thing I want to get ready to get indoors are my begonias. So the begonias, because, you know, they have long lasting beauty and grow wonderfully throughout the year. They just bloom and bloom and bloom. I don't want to lose these, and I also don't want to treat them as annuals. That's just my preference. I try to save as much money as possible in the garden. So one of the things I've showed you recently was just simply taking cuttings, stem cuttings of the begonias, and getting them to root in water. Now these particular cuttings of mine, can you see the roots growing out right here? This is out of a leaf node, out of some leaf nodes, okay? Just cuttings simply put in water. These have been growing for about 9 days for me. Usually I like to say, give it a month before you have a good amount of roots, or maybe even 6 weeks before you're going to try to transfer it into a pot of soil. I have made many more begonias by doing these cuttings and rooting them. So These pots like this one is just perfect. Everything about it looks healthy and wonderful. This is just simply a pot I'm gonna be moving inside. And same thing with these guys over here. This one is going to be a little bit different because this is the one that I brought home from my mom's house in New York. So it had already gotten 2 frost. Not enough to kill the plant completely, but it is enough to damage the plant. So for this one, I just want to clip off these dead leaves, dead foliage, dead flowers, anything like that. I want to clip that stuff off. And actually, this piece right here where I just clipped off foliage, I mean, it's really just stem. I'm going to cut this stem and have it start growing more. We don't need just a stem with nothing on it. So just a little cleanup on this begonia plant. And I'm gonna try to keep this arrangement alive so I can give it back to my mother once her weather warms up in the spring. I had my pot of begonias survive. This one actually, I need to cut low because it had damage on the stem low. So this is gonna be one. Now I need to root this in water. And I'm taking the flowers off. I'm leaving the one leaf, and it needs a different jar that I can label with the date so I remember exactly when I started to make roots on it. Oh, I had pots survive in the greenhouse for me last year of begonias, so they just flowered the whole season, the whole winter. So as long as they had light and water, they were happy. And if I had to do a little bit of stem cutting just to promote new growth, then I had to do that. But so I got my begonias, I got my pot of Dipladenia over there, and these are the flower box, window box liners that I had picked up at Dollar General for about $1 each a long time ago, waiting to be used, waiting for this day. So now some more muscle and hard work is gonna come into play because I wanna take my Dipladenia out of the waterfall. So luckily when I started my overwintering prep, I had already drilled the holes at the bottom of these things. So the intention for my purchasing them was for this Dipladenia. So I think I have maybe 4 or so plants in here. So I'm simply going to try to dig them out, keep all the dirt with them, and put them into these window box pot holders, whatever the heck they are. I've gotten the first 2 loosened up, and now I am a little bit concerned that these are not actually going to fit inside my window box planters. The root system is a little too wide and round. What a bummer. Not gonna work. Luckily, I had washed out some other regular flower pots in preparation for overwintering other things, so let me go grab those instead. Well, I have to admit that was way easier than, I don't know if you saw when I was taking my tropical hibiscus out of this. Holy! That one was heavy, was really challenging, and the root system got so big and spread out around this whole thing. That took me forever. So this was way easier. I have to say, I thought doing my last garden tour of the year was sad. This is sad. Those Dipladenia have made so many of my garden tours this year. I planted them up with you. Now I've taken them out with you, and ugh, I'm depressed. So one of the other things that I thought I wanted to do was try to separate one of the pups from my Mangave plant here. Now this Mangave is the Pineapple Express, and so it is supposed to be hardy in my area, but I've decided to take the pup and just keep it in a pot inside the house just to be sure I don't lose everything. So I've never divided up a Mangave before, and you can see I actually put gloves on for this occasion. This is not nearly as spiky as like an agave. This is the fronds are much softer. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know how to get in here and attack it though. Once I got this first pup out, and luckily it had roots on it, I did notice that there was a second pup, so I decided to just go for them both at the same time. And I also have roots on this one, so now I just have to find a second pot, plant them both up, and then hopefully this guy still survives anyway. I did damage one leaf, and that makes me so incredibly sad, because it's the gorgeous shape of this that I love. Ah! Look at all these blanket flower babies growing in here. See the the seeds just blow everywhere. These are all blanket flowers all around here. I guess all things considered, as you look at this table, you can really see what colors I favor. So I have lots of reds, lots of pinks, and that's actually really true. All of these guys are now going to make their way inside the house until my greenhouse is fully up and operational. So I'll keep you posted on that, as well as how all of my little propagation and experiments and everything went for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out my Instagram if you want to see things unfold a little bit more real time, then maybe I can post a video. And until next time, happy planting.